Hello there, Tarot Tube and gamers. I was getting ready to make a video about different decks that I use for tabletop role-playing games, but then I stumbled across Amanalone's recent video, which will be linked here and there and everywhere. And I said, you know what? I want to jump in on this conversation while it's fresh, and I'll make this other video later. So there we go. Take these off of my table, all these and more that I was going to talk about with my decks for role-playing games, and talk to you about some of the things that he raised in his video. And there, got all that cleared out of the way. We're going to start with this little deck. So this is the deck that I used when I very first started to use tarot when I was role-playing. So I've been reading since around 1990-ish, reading tarot, but I'm pretty new to TTRPGs. I started with D&D, now more into some of the other games, but this was the first deck that I used, and I used this. I was playing a Harengon Ranger, and so I started bringing this along with my dice to the games, and I would pull this out. And whoops, let's get it all out of the box. I liked it because it was mini. We didn't have much room at our table. And honestly, I'm a big fan of mini decks for tabletop role-playing games. I digress, but they just take up a lot less space on your table, however much room you have or don't have. I'm crooked, aren't I? Let me fix that. Sorry about that, y'all. I don't edit, so there we go. So how did I use these? So this is the first question that he's asking. How do you use tarot? So when I first started doing it, I used the entire deck. I didn't separate it out into other categories, which I do now. And I'm going to sort of take you on a little bit of a journey. I am going to put chapters so you can find the things that you're interested in. And I have no idea who may watch, if anybody watch this video, and what you do and don't know about TTRPGs or tarot. So excuse me if I say something that feels redundant to you, because I don't really know who the audience is right now. So what did I do? When I sat down, I would pull a card. So we're just going to pull one here. And I don't really read reversals, so those of you who read reversals, you'll see I just look at the card and I say, what does it mean? And I kind of intuit where we are on the scale of what that is, from something you might perceive as challenging and negative or to something that's very positive. So let's say I pulled this card. And I know that we've been in combat with the last session. I know that we're still in combat this session. So if I see this card, based on my experience, I'm going to look at it and I'm going to say, all right, my character, well, Clementia, is going to be carrying a large burden in this combat session that's coming up. And then I might further look at other things in the card. I might see if there was stuff in here that gave me some ideas. You know, it depends on what the story is, but I might look at this and say, oh, this is going to be the goal. I'm going to be on the lookout for some kind of structure, palace, loot that is significant, you know, taking this battle in a direction that's going to have a payoff. I don't know how I would read the flowers. That would just depend on, you know, I'm completely out of context here. So I would do that. I would read that. Then maybe we're in battle, and this table was very big. There were 8 players, so you had a lot of time to think about things in between turns on the initiative stuff. So maybe, you know, the battle's raging, whatever, and I see my time's coming, but there's no telling what's going to happen, you know, between player 3 and me, whatever. So I'm going to pull a card and I'm going to see, can this help me figure out how to be prepared? Now, this would be, the way I read this card, this would be about, you know, something, there is an opportunity that's there, there is support, there are resources that are there, but I'm in danger of just walking past them and not taking advantage of whatever it is that I could take advantage of. What are the resources that I might overlook? So I would look at the card that way, and now I would really start paying attention to what the players in the initiative order before me are doing, and trying to like gauge strategy. And I might even consider trying to talk to the other players, you know, if the DM allows it, you know, to strategize. You know, every table, every game is different, so that I might do that. And then I do that throughout the game whenever I feel like, oh, I just like a little extra information to help me out, figure out what I want to do, telling my story in the context of the bigger story. I would pull cards. Sometimes other players would pull cards and ask me for something, but that was harder to do. All right, so that's how it all started. That started, 2.5 years ago when I started reading cards at the table with a group. But since then, it's really evolved into doing other things. So now I'm just going to take a quick step aside before we continue on my journey to talk about different kinds of decks. Now, Manalone talked about this already. If you saw his video first, you will be familiar with the deck that he uses, which is the traditional RWS, the Rider-Waite-Smith. I believe he talked about Rider is the publisher, Waite was the creator, and Pamela Coleman Smith was the artist. It's an interesting history, but it's not that old a deck. It's, you know, just over 100 years old, blah, blah. And it is rooted in a, religion's not really the right word. It is rooted in a mystical tradition that was mostly men, very patriarchal, very heavily influenced by Catholic things. Yeah, so this, for me personally, is a little problematic. Plus, I personally, and it's just me, it's like no judgment. You could love this deck. We can still be close friends. I don't enjoy this color palette. So an older deck, this is the Marseille deck. It's from the 5th, so this is just over 100 years old, early 20th century. This is the Marseille deck. It is from the 15th century, and this is what's called a pip deck. So when you have court cards, see you've got people like this. Oh, I've separated it out. That's funny. Okay, and then when you get to the suits, like a playing card deck, that you know, just a regular poker deck, which is probably what most of you are familiar with, you don't have illustrations like this. You've got a number of things, right? So you look at this, there's 6. This is the 6 of coins. Some of them are pretty hard to read. This particular shape I don't enjoy. So this is an older deck. That is an ace. There's just the one image. Here's a 4, 9. This deck has got a Roman numeral to help you out with the number, but not all of them do. Also very Catholic inspired. We've got the Pope. So yeah, so that's the second deck. The third deck I cannot show you an example of, and I believe that Manalone really liked that deck, if I remember right. I've heard it pronounced Toth. I've also heard it pronounced Thoth. I'm just not attracted to it at all, but people who love it, boy oh boy, do they really love it. I don't enjoy it. It's a very esoteric deck, and it draws heavily on the Kabbalah. So for me personally, once again, this is just me, it feels a little appropriative to me. I'm not Jewish. I don't do the Kabbalah, so I just don't use that deck because it's got a lot of that. Okay, now we're going to jump back into, I did that sort of just as a basic thing so you could understand about the 3 decks, the origins, and it all came from just a regular old pack of playing cards, Italian playing cards. I believe it would have been pronounced, still is pronounced, Tarocchi. It is still played in Italy, and that's where we get our the roots of our tarot deck. Now, when we talk about decks of cards, we've got 2 different kinds of decks. We've got tarot decks and we have oracle decks. So now I'm going to pull in an oracle deck. Let's see if I can pull it in quickly without making you wait. Oh, here we go. Here we go. Here we go. All right, this is called the All right, this is it's a set called the Citadel Oracle deck by Fez Wright. So she is a deck creator who also does D&D games. She put 2 decks together and wrote a 5e. It's like a 3 session. I think she says you could do it in 2, but I've run it. It took me 3 sessions to get through it. So these are Oracle decks. Now, an Oracle deck does not have the tarot deck structure, which I am getting to. Don't worry. And an Oracle deck is created. It has its own structure. It's got, every creator gets to make up their own thing about Oracle decks, how they are. This is what hers look like. And as I go through it kind of slowly, you can slow it down if you want to see it, you'll see that some of these things are going to resonate for you. If you're a gamer, you're going to see how some of these characters, some of these things, you know, you could use them in a game, not just her game, but any game. And I started this deck before I was really into TTRPG, so I used this as a divination deck for a long time. And then I had a little bit of a hard time sort of turning that ship around and using this in games. But now I am using this in games and having a lot of fun with it. I'm using these to create NPCs, and my players really like looking at those images. They think they're fun. All right, let me put this away. Okay, so that's what an Oracle deck is. I'll talk about this more in the other video that I was going to make and didn't make because I'm making this video. So how do I really use these tarot cards now? All right, so I take a deck, and you can use any deck you like. I like this one. And this is rather expensive, but to my mind worth it. This is the Fable Makers Animated Tarot Set. It's got a big book, and it's got the whole tarot. Now, I separate my tarot into 3 categories when I'm using it now for role-playing games. I have the majors, the minors, and the court cards. And this is how I use the different groups. So I use the court cards for creating a character. Could be an NPC, could be a player. So as a solo gamer, you could see that having all of these at your fingertips is going to be really, really useful. And I think, and I'll talk about this a little bit more, that you can use any deck you like. If you really just want to use this one, this feels good, that's fine. But really, folks, there's like thousands of decks out there, no joke. And you find one that resonates with you and that's going to help you tell the story that you want to tell. This one I find works pretty well. My problem with a really traditional deck is that it's very patriarchal. It was built in a really patriarchal mindset and very gender specific. You know, queen is a girl and a king is a boy, and that doesn't always work, you know. So when I'm reading, I'm always challenged to get to the essence of what a king character does. I think of the king as more of a ruler, and it could be a male or female or neither, whatever. It just doesn't make any difference. And I think of a queen as a more nurturing, not a ruler so much as a leader. So I bend the traditional rules to make the world be the world I want it to be, which I think is what we're all after when we're playing games, right? And then I use these cards. These are the minors. So these are your 4 suits. So if you think of playing cards, I have something to look at. If you think of, whoops, I dropped something. If you think of playing cards, you've got 4 suits, right? Well, this corresponds directly to playing card suits. Don't forget, this came from a playing card, a card game. And so this is from a class, let me pitch it, with Truth in Story. A lovely woman named Kelly runs these, and I base some of my tarot interpretations for role-playing games on reading playing cards. And this is a handout from that class, and I'll talk about it a little bit later. I'll come back to that. So As Manalone touched upon, there are multiple ways to read a card, and that really comes into play when you're using the minors. Now, these are the majors. These are the big energies. And the simplest way I can think of to describe it is, if you're familiar with Joseph Campbell and the hero's journey, then these kind of tell that story, the hero's journey. And I like to think of it as a hero being a non-gendered kind of personality. That works for me, obviously. And I love these cards because they're animated, see? And these are the major energies, the big stuff. So, and that is true with tarot reading tarot for divination or personal insight. I'm not going to get into my practice right now. You would look at these cards as the big events, the things that maybe you don't have control over, the things that are, think, I don't know, is global the right word? Let me stop for a sec. It's the big stuff. This is the big stuff. This is the majors, because it's majors. This is the minor stuff. This is maybe what's happening today or in the immediate time frame. And the court cards, these are characteristics of different personalities, right? So they are gendered, and the name is gendered, but it's about this energy. Now, how do you understand how to read these cards? I say use your guidebook. Use the guidebook. There are 3 basic ways of reading a card. The one way is to go for keywords. Let's see if they have keywords in this book. I don't use this book that much because the pictures are so lovely. So if you look, okay, let's look at this one. A good example. So here's our King of Chalices, which for me, I would not necessarily say that this was a man, but it could be a man. It's a possibility, but not a requirement. So when we're looking for keywords, we're going to look over here and we're going to say, what are the basic words to describe this card? Emotional stability, diplomacy, devotion, tolerance, counseling. Reversed, so this would be the strong, more positive energies. Reversed would be the more weakened, challenging, negative kind of ideas. Manipulation, emotional repression, domination, insensitivity, and temper, right? So we've got these kinds, that's the scale that we have to work with. And in context, we're going to read it that way. This is a person, perhaps a male person that kind of looks like this, who's going to have this level of skills and abilities that they will be manifested in our story, right? So now, let me give you an example by looking at a character sheet. So I am currently developing a game, so think of it as being in early beta, and I developed a character sheet, and I'm going to use this because this will help you see how I use the different cards. So first, I have my players pull a card from let me pull this back out. I have to pull a card from the, a court card. Where'd it go? I've lost my piles. I got my piles mixed up. I have them pull a court card, which this is, like I said, where this is in beta. Alpha? Anyway, this should say court. So I have them pull a court card and write it here. She got the Queen of Wands. She liked that. She's sticking with it. Now, if you don't like that, you pull something with an energy you don't want to play, don't play it. We're here to have fun, right? Pull a different card. Then she's going to pull 2 cards. I'm saying she because this was a female character. Please don't take offense. 1 minor card to represent a strength and 1 minor card to represent a weakness. So now we're going to go to this, right? So these are these cards where you're going to have a number and you're going to have a suit. So she pulled 7 of Cups. So she chose to interpret this. This is the player's ideas. She chose to interpret this as being creative, having a big imagination, making decision. That's how she's reading it. That's her strength. Then for minor, she pulled the 6 of Pentacles. And the 6 of Pentacles, I can't pull it quickly for you, but it's illustrated generally with, it's often a female character, but it could be male, handing out something to people, being generous. So because it's about being generous, she chose to interpret this as being generous to a fault, because this is her weakness here, right? Or being overly positive about the situation. Then I ask them to center themselves. So this is like a session 0 moment, right? So then I say, let's pull 3 more cards for your past, your present, and your future. Now this is a very typical tarot card spread for divination purposes, and it lends itself wonderfully to role-playing. So she pulled the 5 of Pentacles, which she is interpreting as having a bad financial experience. And because she's the Queen of Wands, she made that be about she's very nurturing about her her people, and she wants to increase their security. So because there was a bad financial experience and she's a queen, she wants to improve that. She wants them to feel more secure. This is an event in her past that's going to motivate her. It's going to move her forward, help her to have a goal. So in the present, she pulled the 4 of Cups, which she's reading as a frustration and boredom, wanting something new and exciting to try. So in a 4 of Cups, you generally see a figure that they've got 4 cups, but they're focusing, they don't see all 4 of the cups. They're just focusing on one, and it's kind of sad. And then for her future, she pulled the 5 of Wands. And for that, she read it as lots of competitive and conflicting energy. So 5 of Wands has got 5 figures. They're all holding wands, which could be a stick, could be a wand, a baton. It's some long stick kind of thing, depending on your deck. And they look like they're fighting. So that's how she read that. The rest of this character sheet does not really work with the tarot. So when we are in our game, something's going on, I will ask them to pull let's get this out. So put my minors over here, my majors over here, keep my minors, and I've mixed my court cards in here unwittingly somehow. So, all right, so when I give you my example, it may not work out the best. So now, let me pull out my little GM screen. I got lots of props here. And this is, like I said, in process. So this is definitely not fixed. This is just where we are now. So now we're going to be in an encounter, right? Sorry about all that craziness there. And now you can see that I am using some mechanics from Powered by the Apocalypse. I kind of think of this as Powered by the Tarot, but like I said, we're in process. So I will say maybe we're going into combat or some kind of encounter. So I will have an individual player or all of the players pull a minor card. I have them pull 1 minor card. And then we're going to use this little calculation thing to figure out how it goes. I'm going to pull this to the side. I've had this on here. I'm telling a story on myself because I keep saying pull 2 cards because I'm thinking Powered by the Apocalypse where you do 2 die. All right. That's my bad. All right. So I'm just going to pull 1, right? So they got a 6 of Wands. So first I'm going to look here. So that's in here. They get a success with complications. So let's just make up something. you know, I got to take this away now because I got to make up something before I pull a card. This is the problem with not editing your videos. Let's say they are going into a tavern, and this is a kind of aggressive person, and they are going to pick a fight with somebody for some strange reason. Okay, so now we're going into combat. So I say, all right, fine. Pull a card, and they pull the 10 of chalices. All right, so somebody's going to get hurt, and it's not them. Okay, so they pulled the 10. They're going to have a complete success with picking a fight with this character. Now I'm going to say, okay, so you have a success. You're going to successfully pick a fight. This person's not going to walk away. They are going to engage with you. Now pull a second card. So I let them have a 2-card spread to tell the story. So I'm going to have them pull a second card, and then I'm going to say, so in this round of our combat, I want you to tell me what happens. You've got a success, and you've got these 2 pictures to help you figure out what that story is. So my player might choose to go strictly with the 10 and the 9 of swords to tell their story. They may say, okay, so I pick up my sword. I guess I've got a sword now. I pick up my sword, and it's like a bad dream. I'm waking up for a bad dream, and I swing my sword at this person in the bar, but I don't know why. I mean, do I even know them? What's happening? I'm so confused. So now we've used this picture to introduce this other element of kind of chaotic energy, like, is this a bad dream? Are they confused about who this other person is? We don't know. So that's how that transpired. And now I am going to say, well, we've got to have a personality for this person that you just picked a card, put to fight with. So now I, as the GM, now I'm going to pull a court card to represent this person's personality that my player has just picked a fight with. All right, so first I'm going to pick a card to represent their personality. So this is who they're having a fight with now. That was a bad choice. They're having a fight with the King of Swords, and they chose to attack with a sword. So this is not going to go well for them, I don't think. So now I'm going to say, all right, as it turns out, you have attacked a very powerful swordsman, and they've got a lot of skills, and let's see how this works out for you. And now I'm going to pull a minor card because we have entered into combat now, so they get to do something. But let's see what he has to say about this. Ace of Coins, that is not good. That is a swing and a miss. Now, how am I going to tell this story, right? So this is a 1. This is a total failure. So I'm going to pull another card to help me tell this story of what happens with this swing and a miss NPC. So I pulled the 6 of Coins. Oh, this is interesting because remember we got this in the character development, the character sheet. So this is the image that I was talking about. The 6 of Coins is generally about generosity. So now I'm going to tell this story, and I'm going to say, this King of Swords, I'm going to make up a name, of course, Balthazar has now picked up his sword. He's holding it in his hand. And as he feels the weight of the sword in his hand, he thinks to himself, I don't know this person. Sure, I could kill them in one blow, but I don't think I will. Not today. And so now he is going to engage you in conversation. And now now I'm taking us out of combat because of the cards that were pulled. And I'm going to try to turn this story around into a conversation, a different kind of encounter. So I hope that shows you how I use minor arcana cards for my encounters. And then I use the court cards to create characters together with the minor cards. So now I'm also coming up with some character-specific moves that talk about the suits and their general meanings, and but that's a subject for another story, not a story for another time, something like that. So now let's talk about the second way you can, I'm jumping around a bit, but I do that, sorry. So now let's talk about the second way you can do this. We talked about getting meanings from the guidebook and using keywords, and I just demonstrated using the pictures to help me tell my story. There's one other way you can do, and we're talking about minor cards now, and that is sort of the intersection of the meanings of the suits and numbers. So I'm going to pull this little cheat sheet back out and say this is I don't want to what do I want to say? I don't want you to just use this and not pursue the information that Kelly has developed in the Truth and Story. If you're interested in this, I really encourage you to take a class or watch her videos and stuff. I didn't make this up, right? All credit goes to Kelly Fitzgerald. But let's look at how she interprets numbers. So for me, in general, I think of odd numbers as being less stable and even numbers as being more stable. And as we go through her meanings, which she has derived from historic sources, and that's why I think she's really worth taking her class. So here's how she goes. Ace is beginnings. 2 is cooperation or conflict. Remember, we could have a scale of meanings. 3 is expansion or loss. 4 is foundation or instability. 5 is activity and disruptions. 6, communication, miscommunication. 7, stepping stone or blockage. 8, balance or imbalance. 9, change. 10, success or failure. Now, she also runs the numbers up into the court cards here, but this is only playing cards, right? So this doesn't take care of all of the court cards in a tarot deck. A tarot deck has got 4 court cards for every suit. So this is just playing card reading. So this doesn't make a straight transfer over to tarot, but this part I use, right? So now we have to go and take a look at our suits. And this is also a pretty good translation to tarot. Not completely, not exactly. So hearts are about emotions, love, happiness, family, healing. Spades, challenges, difficulties, warning, fears. Can you guess? That is swords. Diamonds, resources, abundance, energy, success. That is earth or coins. And clubs, with wands, interactions with work, projects, people, the world, opportunities. So if we say that this is like an intersection, let's say we've got numbers here. I'm just going to use a hashtag for numbers. That's what it used to mean, y'all. If you're old, you know this. And here is your suits, right? So here's, that's so soppy, I'm sorry. Here's your suits, here's your numbers. So this is going to go 1, 2, 3, up to 10. And here you've only got 4. If you were working with the tarot deck, we've got swords, we have got coins, we have got wands, and we have water or cups. I should say cups. And each one of these corresponds with an element. Swords is air, coins is earth, and we have these lovely little symbols we can use, but I'm not going to confuse you. Wands is fire, and cups is water. And I think these correspondences, when I was first learning, I had a hard time. I would flip these back and forth all the time. But also you could think of this as the intellect. You could think of anything that's material. Fire I often think of as creative energy, and water I think of as that sort of you're in your fields, up in your fields. So what you could do is you could take, let's show you how the intersection works. So let's take a card at random. All right, we got the 3 of coins. I like this card. Phew, we got one I can illustrate clearly. So we've got coins. It's going to be up here, and it's here on the 3 axis. So here's our 3 of coins. So now we know that 3, that number, shall I pull this out? Yeah, I'll pull this out. We know that this number is about expansion and loss. But it's also about working together. A lot of tarot cards that you see with a 3 have got 3 characters engaged in something. So we've got these 3. It could be expansion or loss. in this case, oh no, let me back off. I was going to tell you what the card means. No. And now we have earth or coins. So we know we've got 3 people involved in expansion, building something concrete, or perhaps loss. If this is, in a reverse or negative energy, they are not successful in building the thing. So that's how we use a number and a suit. Let's do another one. Let's pull the 2 of chalices, also a good illustration. All right, so we've got chalices. We know that's water, right? That's water, which is emotions, and 2. So also one other thing, deviate a little bit. So here is the graph of possibilities. These are kind of low energy things, right? The 2 of chalices. So let's go to our chart here. 2 is cooperation or conflict. So here they look like they're cooperating, right? But if this is weak, it's not happening, then this is what's not happening. So that's the 2, and chalice is water, emotion. So we know it's about 2 people who were either cooperating, they're getting along together on an emotional level, or they are failing to make that happen. There's a possibility that this could be, but they're not getting there, right? So it could be a bit of a fail, or it could be delayed. So I'm trying to think of what I have a little alpha thing to remember reversed. So it's delayed. I can't. I'll put it in the thing below. I'll show it, my little thing for remembering reversed. It's just that I've done it so much. Anyway, okay, I've lost my remembering cue. So that's how you can use a little bit of a grid to understand what these mean. So we've talked about, and we did some demonstrations of using keywords. What do they mean? Using that little grid, the intersection of the number and the element. And now there's the last. It's not the last by a long shot. The last I'm talking about. And I'm trying to remember what Manalone called it. Transmutation, I think he called it. He had a few very esoteric words. Transmogrification. Sorry if I've misrepresented you. But that is when you just look at the picture and you see what you see. And sometimes that hooks up very nicely with what the card is, what the keywords are, and the official accepted meaning of the card. And sometimes it doesn't. So let's go into an RPG setting. Let's say, what could we do? Okay, getting a quest. So we're looking for information. Let's say we need to get a quest. We're back in the tavern again. And you go up to the tavern keep. The tavern keep's going to offer you a quest. Let's see what it is. All right. So let's say I am going on my intuition alone. I'm just going to look at this picture. And because it's the illuminated, the animated, I'm going to do this, which is kind of fun. Look how the little air, this is the suit of air, right? So now we see an illustration to signify air. So I'm just going to look at this, and I'm going to say, the strangest thing happened last week. Our king, our bold, fierce warrior king, was sleeping outside in his tent. And a storm came in. And he was sleeping, and he didn't notice anything going on. He just slept through this windstorm, not like him at all. And when he woke, his sword was gone in the wind, vanished, poof. So our king is now offering not a crown, but some jewels from his crown to whoever can find his sword and bring it back to him successfully. There we go. So does that have anything at all to do with what the Ace of Swords means? No, it really doesn't. The Ace of Swords is the beginning of the suit of swords, which is our intellect, our words, things like that. And the ace typically just signifies, in a broad way, the entirety of that suit and its meaning, and it's the beginning of that. So yeah, what I told you, what I just said, that story, no, that's not what the Ace of Swords means in the tarot deck. It's just a story I made up. And it's not right and it's not wrong, because it's my story. I made it up. So that's what's called an intuitive reading if you're reading in divination. And there's quite a bit of hoo-ha and fussing out there in the tarot card world among tarot readers about whether you're an intuitive reader or you're an esoteric reader or a yada yada reader. But you know what? We're here to have fun. So I say whichever of these three or all three methods of looking at cards, you do you. That is good with me. All right? So that is how I use tarot cards in my gaming. Well, some of the ways. All right, the next thing to just stay in the conversation with Man Alone is, he said, if you know any tarot card games that you've played, you'd like to know about them. All right, so let me get out my other notebook. I told you I got lots of props here. And I don't always get them in frame properly, so excuse me for that. All right, this is my Tarot RPG 3-ring binder, and not everything in here actually is that. Like, this is, yeah, okay. So this is a game, Dungeons of Divination, which I have not played yet, so I can't say yes or no or anything about this. But it got some good reviews. I'm looking forward to it. And it has these kind of fun charts in it that I'm looking forward to fooling around with. So I may, that may be a nice game emulator for me for later. This one I have played, Amnesis, and it's super fun. In this, you have lost your, well, here, let me just tell you. It's a solo journaling game about self-discovery, reflection, and identity. You play as an individual who's woken up with memory loss. You do not remember who you are, where you are, or what you care about. And you're going to draw tarot cards and fill in the blank spaces of the past. I think this is a nice safety warning. One thing I will say about using tarot cards for growth or divination or whatever you feel comfortable with is it can bring up some difficult things sometimes, which is frequently referred to as shadow work. And you really need to be cognizant of that as a possibility, and know when to step away and seek help if you need it. Okay, so Know Thyself, the solitaire version, here it is. There's a 2-player Lover's Discourse. If you have a partner and you want to get to know each other better, I think it's a nice one. All right, then there's another one that I have played, Village Witch. And in this one, if you like, oh my God, why can I not remember it? There's an anime film. She's a witch. She goes and she lives in another village. It's that story. So you're somebody who's just completed their magical training and you're going to be a village witch. So you get sent an order, you go into the village and you have to go through the different seasons. And after you get through a year, then you decide if you want to stay in that village or go someplace else. And again, it's really fun, and each season has their own series of prompts. You could make this a very complicated game, or you could just do it so fast. All right, here is Embrace. I haven't played this, can't tell you yet. Ritual Magic for Besties. Is this a tarot game? I did play this with a friend, and we had a lot of fun. Yeah, I can't remember very much, though. So, yeah, okay. And then that's that. Those are, you can get those, I think, on either itch.io or DriveThruRPG. I'll put it all in the below box. Okay, this I just got. It is so delicious. It is so good that I had to slow myself down. I was like, no, you are going too fast, and you got to cherish this. You got to really soak it up and enjoy it. So I slowed down with it. Same idea. You're a young witch. You are going out and into the world to make your way in the world. It's written by Jack Harrison. I think he's got something else in the works now. But look at how gorgeous this book is. it's exquisite. It's really exquisite. Wonderful, wonderful directions. Again, it's, you know, a roll and write, a pull and write. And so you get a lot of information to build your character. And I just think the mechanics of this are fun. And look, we've got nice flow charts. Look at the illustrations. I just, wow, wow, wow. I can't say enough good thing. Also, like the Village Witch, you're going to have different seasons, and you're telling the story partially through writing letters. And this one's going to have different, again, a chart for different cards and their meanings. But just, oh my goodness. Oh, and this one has got all this information about the majors. I mean, the major arcana, which I didn't talk about much in this video. So yeah, this is my closing to say this is my favorite one so far. I'm still out there on the hunt. I have a friend who's working on this with me, you know, looking for these games. And my gosh, she pulls out so many that I can't possibly keep up. But there are so many really interesting looking TTRPGs for solo play using the tarot, as well as for playing with other people. All right, so that's about it. If you made it all the way to the end, there are plenty of resources in the box below. And if you are interested in my character sheet, my email is also down there. You can send me an email and I'll send you the PDF. You just have to understand that it's in process. Like next week it could look completely different. I don't know. Yeah, but I will send you that character sheet if you're interested, because you could use that for any game that any RPG game that you're playing, right? You could use it when you're building your super complicated 2024 D&D character if you like. But yeah, I think that it's a wonderful way using cards to, you know, flesh out a character, help you tell your story, differentiate between the big things and the little things. And you can even use the numbers to help you with your degree of success, as I do with my scale, my 0 to 10 scale. All right, that's it. That's how I use them. And knowing me, it's going to be something new next week and something new the week after that. But I am going to make another video about which decks I recommend. Because as you can see, I've got a lot of decks and I have opinions. And I'll share them with you if you want to hear them. Okay, thanks for stopping by. I really appreciate it. And if you have anything to say on the subject, make a video and drop it below so I can find it. Thanks. Bye-bye.